mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 8 of FX's Atlanta, entitled New Jazz. The title revolves around the name that this new individual, this new character in this episode gives Paperboy when they enter into this club. She says his name is New Jazz. We'll talk about that name and I think some of the other aspects that, not aspects, but some of the other things that happen in this episode, because I think this episode could be rewarding on multiple viewings if you kind of look at it. Think of it like Sixth Sense, right? Like once you find out that the little boy was dead, that Bruce Willis was dead, if you watch the movie again, you can kind of go back and look for clues of that. I think this is one of those episodes that once you get the conceit, maybe you go back and watch it and previous events make sense. I'm not gonna do that, but I'm gonna verbally do that once I kind of like go through the episode real quick, and then I'm gonna go back and talk about the things that happened prior to the reveal of the conceit, and then we'll see if we can come up with any kind of ideas as to what this kind of stuff is supposed to mean. But Atlanta as of late has gotten a little bit formulaic, and I don't necessarily, I don't mean it in an insulting way. I don't like the way in which it has become formulaic, but I don't mean formulaic in a mean way. I just mean like it's structured in a way where it's like you spend maybe like the first 15, 20 minutes not like seeing things, but you're wondering the whole time, where is this going? Why am I seeing this? And you might not know it, but you're thinking like, okay, what is the conceit here? Where's the twist gonna come in? Or that moment of realization where everything that I'm seeing right now that I don't understand makes sense. And you get that moment maybe like 15, 20 minutes into the episode, then you get that, oh, okay, and then you either like it or you don't, and then you spend the remainder of the episode kind of like dealing with the fallout. And this episode is the same. It has that exact same conceit, almost a little bit more than, that same structure, almost more than most episodes do. Like this one is extra kind of like what the fuck's going on for that first 15, 20 minutes. And then you get the realization of what's happening. But before we get into the episode, I do want to talk about last week because we need to have a conversation, people. We need to have a conversation about fandom because I don't think a lot of people who had problems with my video from last week understand how fandom works. Being a fan of something doesn't mean that you are required to like every single aspect of whatever it is you're a fan of. Me, as a Pistons fan, I am not required to find positives in every loss. I can say they played bad. I'm not required to like every move they make. I can say that was a bad trade or that was a bad draft pick. You can do the same with if you're a fan of a certain artist. You will say Jay-Z. If you're a Jay-Z fan, you're not required to like every Jay-Z song. So for me, as someone who has been, let's be clear here. I've been a Donald Glover fan longer than probably 99% of the people watching this video. I was a fan of his music before he was popping. I watched him on Community. I know he wrote on 30 Rock, like all that shit. Like, so by the time we get to Atlanta, I've been a fan. And I've watched all the episodes. I don't know how many episodes are in each season, but we'll say 10 in season 1, 10 in season 2. There's 10 this season. So let's just say for the sake of argument, they've now aired 28 episodes. You mean to tell me because I shit on one of them that I'm somehow not quite an Atlanta fan? Like there's something wrong with me that I didn't like 1 out of 28 episodes? Most of you people probably haven't even seen all 28 episodes and definitely don't have the lineage of Donald Glover fandom that I have. So you don't get to sit across from me and question my fandom because I didn't like a fucking episode. Let me explain to you how fandom works. You like a property. It does not mean that you have to be that you can't criticize it. It doesn't make you like it less. Because I'll see people like, oh, well, like, I don't know if I really want to say this, or I don't know if it was really that. Like they act like they can't fully criticize something that they're a fan of because it makes them like it makes them less of a fan. And let me explain to you, you are a very remedial person if you think that. So like, I want to really like address, I deleted a lot of the comments that pissed me off on last week's video. For people who didn't agree with me and were just like, oh, okay, well, I don't agree, blah, 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 we chopped it up and we cool. Like, I showed love to some of the people, we smooth. But like the people who came on there and got disrespectful, I deleted their comments. There was one person in particular I wanted to address though. I think it was a woman. She said something like, this show might not be for you. You are a blithering idiot. Like really, like you don't belong to the internet without a helmet on. Cause I feel like trying to type, you're so stupid that trying to type at the same time as trying to think, like you might fall out of your chair and hurt yourself or something like that. Like you don't belong on the internet. Like you watched one video of mine. You might not have even watched the video. You might have just read my description and go, this show just might not be for you. You know what? Thinking is not for you. Like, again, I've like 27 episodes of this show out of 28, and you want to tell me the show might not be for me because I didn't like your favorite episode or some shit? The fuck out of here, man. Let's be clear. If you don't agree with opinion of mine, that's cool. Come on here and be like, yo, I'm not feeling that. This is what I thought. We could chop it up and it'll be smooth. You come on here and say some dumb shit, you liable to have me say some dumb shit back to you. The only reason I didn't cut it to those people is because what I would say would probably get me banned from YouTube. So I'm just going to delete the comments so you can shout into a void like the idiot you are, and I'm going to go about my life, and then I'm going to come on here next week, and I'm going to talk about you right into this camera, and guess what? There's still nothing you can do about it, because if you one of the motherfuckers who comment I delete it, you do it again, I'll delete it again, so fuck you. Like, it don't really fucking matter. So I just want to address the stupidity of thinking that being a fan of something means you have to like every aspect of it all the time. Be less remedial. Try to think on a higher level. Just don't be as stupid as you are. Like maybe like read or something. I don't know whatever it takes for stupid people to be less stupid, because I wouldn't fucking know. Whatever it takes for stupid people to be less stupid, you do that, and then you can come and we can have a conversation in the comments of my videos. Cool? Bet. All right, so let's move on and talk about this episode. So like I said, this week, there was kind of like a random string of events almost. Like, you don't really know what's going on. I'm going to run off those events, and then we're going to talk about, like, the conceit. So, this week we start off, the main idea of how the episode starts is that Paperboy and Darius are going to do some kind of drug that involves honey and weed, and they didn't tell Ern about it for insurance purposes. So they're going to do this drug. They're going to wander around in Amsterdam and just have a good time. Darius got playlist for them ready. He's prepared. So they go to this shop, they buy the drugs, they eat it, they presumably drink the coffee, and they start walking around outside. The first thing we notice is that there's a lot of people with Goofy hats on. Goofy isn't like the Disney character Goofy, like they're at Disney World or something. A lot of people with Goofy hats on. We see one person that's kind of like strung out, like on the side of the road, and we hear Darius say, "Don't be him," and this person they are on the worst fucking drugs, right? We see a twitching like rat in the street. There's a woman who recognized Paperboy. She rides by on a bike and she like points at him. I mean, but he's famous, right? But he seems to make note of this. He sees a lot of half-naked women, like kind of like in windows and whatnot. And again, that makes sense. He's in Amsterdam. Isn't prostitution legal in Amsterdam? Amsterdam. I've seen The Wire. Isn't prostitution legal in Amsterdam? Makes sense. We might be like window shopping women, so it makes sense. There's some young men who see Paperboy and recognize him. He kind of like not takes off because he didn't run from him, but he walks away quickly. They chase him down and they take a baby. They steal a baby and throw it around. Like, okay, there's that. At this point, he gets separated from Darius and he goes into this museum. And we don't know it's a museum at first. We see a woman crying. And I caught onto this pretty quick because the building he was in was so dark, but she was spotlighted. So I was like, this might be like a play or something like that. And sure enough, it was something to that effect, a play, a performance, something like that in this museum. So he goes to the museum and he runs to this woman named Lorraine. Lorraine is fucking obnoxious. Like, she shits on his hat that Darius previously complimented. She shits on the fact that he's a rapper. She hates rappers. She shits on the fact that rappers don't know about their finances and challenges him to know who owns his masters, which he might not have even known what masters were. She had to define it for him. She snatches off, but she gives him a Goofy hat to wear instead of his the hat that he had on. And then they walk out and it's nighttime. And you feel like this conversation between the two of them took place over the course of 15, 20 minutes, and they go outside and now it's night. And she says like, oh, they don't have a lot of sunlight here. So then they go to this club where this is where he's introduced his new jazz. They sit among a couple of other people. They get some drinks. Paperboy decides that he wants to get a pre-drink drink, which I've done that before. Like ordered drinks and they're like taking too long, so I just go up to the bar, order it myself, and come back, and then I have that drink while I wait for the drink that I ordered. I've totally done that. That's one aspect of this shit I relate to, because I feel like me and Paperboy are kind of like we kind of the same in our complete distaste for humanity, and we have some of the same habits. It's interesting, but. He's at the bar and Liam Neeson is there. And this is where things get a little off for me. I'm going to read something for you real quick. And this is going to tie into what I was saying about last week's episode and the problems that I'm having with the show right now. So after he's talking to, while he's talking to Liam Neeson, before I read what I have here, I want to say that this is from an excerpt from a review of this episode. I already don't know what website I was looking at, but it says, a napkin reveals the incredibly on-the-nose name of the club, Cancel Club. This name kind of represents what's wrong with season 3 of Atlanta. It has gone from being this very imperfect but equally very humorous and creative show to this pretentious rehashing of pop culture headlines and Twitter talking points. Is that not verbatim damn near what the fuck I said last week? Like I am not alone on this. And this is, again, the same thing with this episode. Now we're getting our pulled from the Twitter headlines moment, and we have Liam Neeson talking about the cancel culture controversy that he got into. Cancel culture controversy that he got into when this audio leaked of him essentially, what was it, audio or just an article that talked about it? Whatever it was something about him saying that he walked around. It was an interview saying that he walked around like the streets of England or some shit like that, looking for a black guy to beat up because some black guy, I think, had raped somebody that was close to him, something to that effect. And he got in a lot of trouble for that. And in this episode, he talks about that with Paperboy. And Paperboy's kind of like, well, it's cool that you don't like black people. He's like, oh, I do. I don't like black people. He's like, I didn't before, but I don't now because y'all tried to ruin my career. And he's like, don't you realize you shouldn't be saying shit like that? And Liam's like, oh, the cool thing about being white is that you don't have to learn shit. Like that. I thought that was funny. But like I said, at the same time, it's again symptomatic of the same issue that I've been mentioning all season, is that this show feels less creative because all it does is take popular stories that were popular on Twitter and just find honestly, a pretentious way to take a riff on those topics. But let's see, where was I? So after the Liam Neeson conversation, Lorraine pulls him outside, and now it's daytime again, and it's cold out. So now you feel like it's like a different month or some shit. And they argue, and Lorraine has a lot of information that she shouldn't have, that they didn't discuss during this walk. She talks about how they let him wear the hat that she didn't like, that they always make him pay for shit, that he lets family handle his finances. And then he kind of like, he freezes up, like his legs stop working, his arms stop working. He sits down, he puts on a blanket, and he kind of like curls up. And then we realize that the strung out person that he saw at the beginning was him. And we even see him walk by and hear Darius say, don't be that guy. And if you hadn't already realized it at this point, he's hallucinating from the drugs. So after that, he wakes up, Ern is in his room. He's taking care of him, changed his clothes, got him some water, got him some food. He told him he threw up, and everything seems cool. Ern's there taking care of him, and he goes, "Where's Lorraine?" And Ern goes, "Your mother?" And we find out that obviously his mother has the same name as this person. And then he asks Ern who owns his masters, and Ern says that he does. So the revelation here, let me see where I'm at, 14 minutes, cool. The revelation here is, one, that obviously he was hallucinating, but two, that Lorraine is a fiction of his imagination, a figment of his imagination that is based on his mother. And that's why she had a lot of this information. So when I look at that, I look at essentially as Lorraine being the personification of doubts that Paperboy has within himself. Like, these are all things that he has issues with internally that he doesn't address. and this person named Lorraine, who is I guess maybe the I can't say physical embodiment because she's not real, but like the fantasy physical embodiment of his mother, bringing these issues that he has with himself to light. So that's kind of like the conceit here. So then I thought, let me go back through the things that I saw and try to make sense of them, because they seem random and pointless up until we understand what's going on. Like as far as like the owning his masters and all that kind of shit. Like that shit's where it's obvious. But like, what did these scenes mean beforehand? So like a lot of people in goofy hats. Like why were they wearing goofy hats? Is that a sign that maybe Paperboy thinks that he's goofy? Like not Goofy the character, but Goofy the adjective? Like is like a thing like I have to carry myself in a way so that people take me seriously and don't think that I'm just some clown ass fucking rapper that shouldn't be respected. So maybe he has an issue or hang up with how he's perceived, and he doesn't want to perceive as someone who's goofy. We see a twitching rat in the street. We know how rappers look at rats. You know, rappers always want to align themselves with gangsters like the mafia, and gangsters obviously they don't like rats. So is that maybe like the physical embodiment of not wanting to be perceived as a snitch or a rat? I don't know why he would feel that way, but I can't think of any other reason they would show us a rat on the ground. We see a woman who recognizes him and several other boys who recognize him. He might have hang-ups about fame and about being recognized. Maybe he doesn't like that aspect of it. He'd rather be more low-key. So he has issues with the visibility that comes with being a rapper, which he didn't have in season 1. Maybe that's an internal issue that he has. All the women in the windows, maybe he has internal issues surrounding promiscuity. Maybe he feels like he's a hoe and he doesn't particularly like that, or he has issues with it. Who knows? I can't wrap my head around stealing the baby and throwing it around. Maybe he has, maybe he wants to have kids one day. Does he have kids? I feel like he does. I don't know. I'd have to remember back to season 1 when this show was kind of normal, what that was. But all that to say, there's a lot of different things that if you look back on the episode again with the knowledge that Lorraine is kind of like the embodiment of his mother and is bringing to light his own self-doubts. If you look at the episode prior, you watch it again, maybe these things that seem kind of random might make a little more sense if you look at it through that lens. So, yeah, that's kind of what I took from that episode. So at the end of the day, I found this episode to be the same as what I've been saying this whole time, is like these unimaginative kind of like ripped from the Twitter headline stories, but they do put a creative twist on it though. Like you could have just said, okay, we want to rip from the Twitter headline some Liam Neeson shit, but that's not the focus of the episode. That's just a scene. The rest of the episode I do think is creative, from using this drug as a way of Paperboy having to deal with his own internal struggles. It's not the first time I've seen something like this, but I like how they did it. And you always like, if you're a fan of this show, unlike me apparently, but stupid motherfucker, if you're a fan of this show, you just like seeing these characters together. So seeing them interact and having Paperboy deal with this same issue that I've seen in other things before, but having it be Paperboy makes it feel new and fresh, because he's such he's probably my favorite character on the show, honestly. But it's between him and Darius. But Darius is very quirky, which is funny at times, but like Paperboy has a complexity to him that I really like. And like I said, I feel very like I feel like a kinship with this guy. Like we're very similar. But I did enjoy this episode. Like I said, I didn't like the Liam Neeson thing. Well, I'm not going to say I didn't like the Liam Neeson thing. I don't like that they're still doing this pull from the Twitter headlines thing, but I did think this episode was fun, and I thought it was interesting to, once you realize the conceit, to kind of reflect on what you saw prior and see how it applies. So last thing, I want to talk about a couple of things that I thought were funny or interesting. I like when Darius is buying the drugs and the guy says, this is enough money. He was like, we'll let fate decide. Like knowing full well that Paperboy is behind him and got money. So like if you're Paperboy, you standing here like, obviously this motherfucker want me to pay for this shit. Like, but now I offer to pay for it, he gonna act like it's fate. Sure enough, that's what he did. I love how Paperboy almost said the N-word to Liam Neeson, which would have been, I don't know which would have been funnier, if he had said it to him, given the nature of Liam Neeson's controversy, or the fact that he stopped himself short. Either way, that was funny. I like the guy who talked about the baby and was like, I like to shave off his little mustache and sit on his face. Like, I wonder how the baby will react. Well, I'm assuming he will see this. Like, I wonder how he's going to react to that. Like, I would think any sensible person would laugh, but he's so illogical and so ridiculously stereotypical of, like, that hood dude. Like, he's probably going to want to fight somebody because he's a fucking idiot. And I like they said that her apartment is called 106 Apart. Like if you're not old enough to remember 106 Apart, but 106 Apart was a show where they played like rap videos and whatnot, and they would have rap guests. So despite this woman saying she didn't like rappers, apparently she had rappers making guest appearances in her apartment routinely enough that it got that name. So pretty funny stuff there. Enjoyable episode. I believe there's 2 more left in this season. So until next week, peace.